Hello my friends, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us for another journey through history. Today, we'll uncover the remarkable story of an object that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires for centuries. Let's begin. Imagine a single diamond surviving longer than entire empires. A diamond that passed through the hands of kings, emperors, conquerors, and colonial rulers. Unlike most famous treasures, the Koh-i-Noor was rarely bought or sold. It changed owners through wars, through invasions, through political treaties signed after crushing defeats. Every ruler believed possessing it symbolized power. Yet almost every one of them eventually lost both the diamond and their empire. Today, it sits inside the Tower of London, protected as part of the British crown jewels. But its journey began centuries ago in India. And even now, its ownership remains one of history's most debated questions. This is the remarkable story of the Koh-i-Noor. Long before it became famous, the Koh-i-Noor lay hidden deep beneath the earth. Over millions of years, intense heat and pressure transformed carbon into one of the world's most remarkable diamonds. Most historians believe it was discovered in the famous Golconda diamond mines of present-day Telangana, India. During the medieval period, these mines produced many of the world's finest diamonds. Long before diamonds were found in Africa, India was the center of the global diamond trade. Exactly when the Koh-i-Noor was discovered remains unknown. No historical record tells us who first found it. The identity of the miner who uncovered one of history's greatest treasures has been lost forever. When it was first extracted, the diamond looked very different from the polished gem we know today. It was larger, rougher, and uncut. Skilled craftsmen carefully shaped it using the techniques available at the time, preserving much of its original size rather than maximizing its brilliance. Even in its early form, the stone attracted enormous attention. In those days, diamonds were far more than beautiful gemstones. They represented wealth, authority, and royal legitimacy. A king's treasury reflected the strength of his kingdom, and extraordinary jewels became symbols of power. The Koh-i-Noor quickly became one of the most valuable treasures in India. Its exact early owners remain uncertain. Some historians believe it belonged to the Kakatiya dynasty of southern India, although definitive evidence is limited. Like many medieval treasures, its earliest history blends fact with legend. What historians do agree on is that the diamond passed through the hands of powerful Indian rulers long before it became famous across the world. It was carefully guarded inside royal treasuries and displayed only on important occasions. As stories of India's wealth spread across Asia and the Middle East, so did stories of its magnificent gemstones. Merchants, travelers, and conquerors heard tales of India's immense riches. Those stories attracted attention. And history has shown that wherever great wealth exists, ambitious rulers are never far behind. The Koh-i-Noor was no longer just a precious stone. It had become a prize. A symbol that every powerful ruler wanted to possess. Its remarkable journey through history was only beginning. As powerful kingdoms rose and fell across India, the Koh-i-Noor continued its remarkable journey from one ruler to another. It was never simply a piece of jewelry. It represented victory. Whoever possessed the diamond often believed they possessed the right to rule. By the early 16th century, northern India was undergoing dramatic change. In 1526, the Central Asian ruler Babur defeated the Sultan of Delhi at the First Battle of Panipat and established the Mughal Empire. Many historians believe the Koh-i-Noor entered the Mughal treasury around this period. Babur himself described receiving an extraordinary diamond after his victory, though historians continue to debate whether it was definitely the Koh-i-Noor. Over the next century, the Mughal Empire became one of the richest and most powerful empires in the world. Its rulers collected magnificent jewels, gold, and precious artworks from across Asia. The Koh-i-Noor became one of the crown jewels of this growing empire. It passed from emperor to emperor, becoming a symbol of imperial authority. Under Emperor Akbar, the empire expanded rapidly. Under Jahangir, it grew even stronger. Then came Shah Jahan, the emperor best known for building the Taj Mahal. His reign marked the height of Mughal wealth and artistic achievement. Shah Jahan wanted a throne unlike anything the world had ever seen. Crafted from gold and covered with countless precious stones, it became famous as the Peacock Throne. At its center sat one of the empire's greatest treasures, the Koh-i-Noor. Visitors from distant lands were amazed by the splendor of the Mughal court. The empire appeared unstoppable. Its treasury seemed endless. The Koh-i-Noor reflected that image of unmatched power and prosperity. But history has a way of changing even the mightiest empires. After Shah Jahan's reign, political struggles weakened the Mughal dynasty. Internal conflicts grew. Regional rulers challenged imperial authority. The once powerful empire slowly became vulnerable. Far beyond India's borders, another ambitious conqueror had begun hearing stories of the unimaginable wealth stored inside Delhi. And among the treasures he wanted most was the legendary diamond that had become the pride of the Mughal emperors. The Koh-i-Noor was about to leave the empire that had treasured it for generations. In 1739, the Mughal Empire faced one of the greatest disasters in its history. The Persian ruler Nader Shah invaded northern India with a powerful army. After defeating the Mughal forces at the Battle of Karnal, he marched toward Delhi, the heart of the empire. What followed was devastating. The city was plundered, and the Mughal treasury, one of the richest in the world, was emptied. Gold, silver, jewels, and priceless artifacts were taken back to Persia. Among them was the magnificent Peacock Throne. And hidden within the royal treasures was the famous diamond. According to popular historical accounts, Nader Shah was astonished when he first saw the gem. It is said that he exclaimed, "Koh-i-Noor," meaning "mountain of light," in Persian. From that moment, the diamond became known by the name the world still uses today. But Nader Shah did not enjoy his prize for long. Only a few years later, he was assassinated. His vast empire quickly began to fall apart, and once again, the Koh-i-Noor changed hands. The diamond eventually came into the possession of Ahmad Shah Durrani, the founder of the Durrani Empire in present-day Afghanistan. For several decades, it remained with Afghan rulers, passing from one generation to another during periods of political instability and succession struggles. By the early 19th century, another powerful ruler entered the story. Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the founder of the Sikh Empire, had united much of Punjab into one of the strongest kingdoms in the region. In 1813, the Afghan ruler Shah Shuja Durrani sought Ranjit Singh's protection after losing his throne. In exchange for military support and refuge, Shah Shuja surrendered the Koh-i-Noor. Once again, the diamond had changed owners. Not through purchase, but through politics, power, and survival. For Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the Koh-i-Noor became one of the greatest symbols of the Sikh Empire. Yet history would repeat itself once more. After his death, political instability weakened the kingdom. The empire that had proudly displayed the Koh-i-Noor soon found itself facing a new and rapidly expanding power. The British East India Company. Following the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh in 1839, the once powerful Sikh empire began to weaken. A series of succession disputes, political instability, and internal conflicts created opportunities for the British East India Company, which had steadily expanded its influence across the Indian subcontinent. Tensions eventually erupted into the Anglo-Sikh Wars. Although the Sikh army fought fiercely, the British emerged victorious. In 1849, Punjab was officially annexed by the British East India Company, marking the end of the Sikh Empire. One of the conditions included in the Treaty of Lahore was the surrender of the Koh-i-Noor. The treaty stated that the famous diamond would be handed over to the British East India Company on behalf of the young Maharaja Dalip Singh, who was only about 10 years old at the time. Unlike many treasures exchanged through trade, the Koh-i-Noor changed hands as part of the terms imposed after military defeat. Its transfer remains one of the most debated chapters in the diamond's history. After leaving India, the diamond began a long sea journey to Britain. The voyage was not without difficulties. Storms struck the ship, and disease broke out among some of those on board. Despite the challenges, the Koh-i-Noor safely arrived in England in 1850. Its arrival attracted enormous public attention. Newspapers covered the story extensively, and many people were eager to see the legendary diamond that had passed through the hands of so many kings and emperors. But the British public was about to discover that the world's most famous diamond looked very different from what they had imagined. After arriving in Britain in 1850, the Koh-i-Noor was formally presented to Queen Victoria by the British East India Company. The diamond was seen as a symbol of the expanding British Empire and quickly became one of its most celebrated treasures. In 1851, it was displayed at the Great Exhibition in London's Crystal Palace, where thousands of visitors came hoping to see the legendary gem. Many expected a dazzling spectacle. Instead, some left disappointed. Although the Koh-i-Noor was exceptionally large and historically famous, its traditional Indian cut did not reflect light in the way European diamonds did. To many visitors, it appeared less brilliant than expected. Queen Victoria's advisors decided the diamond should be recut. The task was entrusted to skilled European craftsmen, who spent weeks carefully reshaping it using modern cutting techniques. The process dramatically improved its sparkle but came at a cost. The diamond lost nearly half of its original weight, shrinking from approximately 186 old carats, about 191 modern metric carats, to 105.6 carats. Once recut, the Koh-i-Noor displayed far greater brilliance and became one of the finest diamonds in the British royal collection. Over the years, it was worn by Queen Victoria and later mounted into several royal crowns worn by British queens. Today, the Koh-i-Noor forms part of the British crown jewels, not as an ordinary gemstone, but as one of the monarchy's most famous and recognizable symbols. Its remarkable journey, from the royal courts of India to the heart of the British monarchy, had transformed it into one of the world's most iconic treasures. Yet despite its new home, the story of the Koh-i-Noor was far from over. Today, the Koh-i-Noor is housed inside the Tower of London, one of Britain's most famous historic landmarks. It forms part of the Crown Jewels, a collection that includes royal crowns, scepters, orbs, and other ceremonial treasures used by the British monarchy. The diamond is mounted in the crown of Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, which was created for her coronation in 1937. Since then, millions of visitors from around the world have traveled to the Tower of London to see the legendary gemstone in person. Protected behind thick glass and strict security, the Koh-i-Noor remains one of the most visited objects in the entire collection. Despite its relatively modest size compared to some modern diamonds, its fame comes not from its weight but from its extraordinary history. Few objects have passed through so many kingdoms, survived so many wars, or witnessed the rise and fall of so many empires. For some visitors, it represents the grandeur of the British monarchy. For others, it serves as a reminder of a much more complicated past shaped by conquest and colonial rule. The diamond itself has remained silent through every chapter of history. Yet its presence continues to spark conversations wherever it is displayed. More than a precious gemstone, the Koh-i-Noor has become a symbol of history, empire, and the lasting legacy of one of the world's most remarkable treasures. More than 175 years after leaving India, the Koh-i-Noor remains one of the world's most disputed historical treasures. Several countries believe they have a legitimate claim to the diamond, each pointing to a different chapter of its long and complex journey. India argues that the Koh-i-Noor was taken during British colonial rule after the annexation of Punjab in 1849 and should be returned to the country where it was discovered and spent much of its early history. Pakistan also claims the diamond, noting that it was surrendered in Lahore, now part of modern-day Pakistan, following the Treaty of Lahore. Afghanistan points to the period when the diamond belonged to the Durrani rulers before it passed to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Some historians in Iran also reference its time in Persia after Nader Shah carried it away from Delhi in 1739. The British government, however, maintains that the diamond was legally transferred under the Treaty of Lahore and remains part of the crown jewels. Because the Koh-i-Noor changed hands repeatedly through conquest, political agreements, and shifting borders, determining a single rightful owner is far from simple. Its story stretches across regions that today belong to different modern nations, each connected to a different part of its history. As a result, the debate continues. The Koh-i-Noor is no longer just one of the world's most famous diamonds. It has become a symbol of colonial history, cultural heritage, and the difficult questions surrounding the return of historical artifacts. Perhaps that is why its story still fascinates millions. For centuries, kings believed they owned the Koh-i-Noor. Yet every empire that claimed it eventually faded into history. The diamond remained silent, unchanged, watching rulers come and go. Today, it still rests inside the Tower of London. Not simply as a priceless jewel, but as one of history's greatest survivors. A single stone that has outlived kingdoms, emperors, and empires, and whose journey may not yet be over. For centuries, the Koh-i-Noor has been called the world's most famous diamond. Not because it is the largest. Not because it is the most valuable. But because no other gemstone has witnessed so much history. It was born beneath the soil of India. It passed through the hands of kings, emperors, conquerors, and colonial rulers. It survived the rise of the Mughal Empire, the invasion of Nader Shah, the Sikh Empire, the expansion of the British Empire, and the birth of modern nations. Its journey was never peaceful. It was carried away after battles. Claimed through conquest. Handed over through treaties. Every ruler who possessed it believed they had secured a symbol of lasting power. Yet history tells a different story. The empires disappeared. The thrones were abandoned. The kings became names in history books. But the Koh-i-Noor remained. Today, millions of people visit the Tower of London to see the legendary diamond behind protective glass. Some admire its beauty. Others see it as a masterpiece of history. And many see it as a reminder of a complicated past that still shapes conversations today. Questions about its rightful home continue to spark debate between nations, historians, and governments. Whether those questions are ever answered remains uncertain. Perhaps that is the Koh-i-Noor's greatest legacy. It is no longer just a precious stone. It is a witness to centuries of ambition, conquest, empire, and change. And maybe history's greatest lesson is this. People spent centuries fighting to possess the Koh-i-Noor. Yet in the end, no one truly kept it forever. Because while rulers came and went, the diamond simply continued its journey through history.